Hey there, I'm Rachel Ehring, and you're listening to the Top Music Piano Podcast. Get inspired as we discuss creative resources, trends in piano pedagogy, ways to grow your income and streamline your studio, and new ways to engage your students each week. If you are a teacher who wants to go beyond the method books to create an innovative studio that fosters lifelong music makers, you've come to the right place. I'm really excited to introduce you to today's guest. Sheila is someone I met many years ago when we were both in college studying piano, and it has been so exciting to watch her journey to becoming the founder of a nonprofit art school in Chicago. Today we'll be talking about what summers look like at the Fame Center, but Sheila also shares wisdom about nonprofits, hiring teachers, and much more. With a bachelor's degree in piano performance and a master's degree in interdisciplinary art, Sheila Fortson brings a wide range of experience to her studio. She has been playing and performing music since childhood. Her extensive background in choirs, orchestras, and piano performance give her a broad look at the world around her and a fresh perspective on teaching music. With a passion for music education, she began Fame Center as a way to broaden her ability to educate the young and young at heart. Sheila is the founder and executive director of Fame Center, and is excited to share her love of music and art education with the South Loop and surrounding Chicago communities. Welcome to the show, Sheila. It's so good to see your beautiful face. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the art school that you have there in Chicago?
Sure. Rachel, thanks so much for inviting me to be on the podcast. My name is Sheila Fortson, and I am the founder and executive director of Fame Center. And FAME is an acronym for Fortson Arts and Music Education, Fortson being my last name. We are a nonprofit music and arts education organization with a mission and vision to create equitable access to arts education for students in underserved communities. So our target is to provide access to the arts for students in communities that are underserved and under-resourced, specifically in the Chicago area. However, we're located in the South Loop, and so we do have students who come from backgrounds with more resources, and so there's a model for financial aid for students who need that, and then some of our students pay full fee as well.
Okay, and we're going to get into a little more of that later, but I kind of want to go back to the beginning because you and I have known each other for a very long time. We actually went to undergrad together. We won't say how many years ago, but it was a lot of years ago. So I knew you before any of this started, and it's been so fun to kind of watch your journey from afar. But can you take us back to when you were either a piano major or maybe just starting out teaching private piano lessons like so many of our listeners are currently doing?
Yes. So I actually started teaching piano when I was about 16 years old, and then, majored in piano in undergrad. I never had a vision to start my own nonprofit at all. That was not the goal. I think my journey led me there very organically, but it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to do in life. But music has always been part of it. I played violin when I was in high school. I didn't do much of that in college, but so then I ended up teaching violin, piano, and voice when I came out of undergrad and had built my own small studio. So that's kind of how I originally got started, was just through building a small private music studio and teaching my own students.
And then take us through the progression, a little of your journey of how you ended up where you are today. And also, if you could tell us what the Fame Center looks like today.
Yeah. Oh, the progression. It was quite a winding road. I graduated and began working at a nonprofit after school program, just, working with kids and helping them with their homework. After that, I worked at a church. I was a choir director at a church for 4 years. Went to grad school after that and majored in interdisciplinary art, which allowed me to study 5 of the major art forms: dance, music, theater, visual art, and creative writing. And so that actually was what propelled me I modeled Fame Center after my grad school program. I wanted to have a place where students could have a touch point for more than one art discipline. So if music wasn't your thing, then maybe you could try visual art, or if that wasn't it, maybe creative writing. So that really is what launched sort of the vision and dream for Fame Center. Today, it looks like a beautiful space in the South Loop of Chicago. It's sort of the near South Side. We're actually pretty close to Soldier Field, where the Chicago Bears play. But we rent a small space, about 2,500 square feet, from a church building that's located there. But we've made it our own. We have our own entrance. We had an artist come in and paint a beautiful mural on the wall. We have small private lesson studios. We have 9 pianos that were all donated, and we have three of them are Steinways. So we've been really blessed and grateful for how the community has really sort of wrapped their arms around us and supported what we're doing. But it's a beautiful space. It's very cheerful. It's lots of fun. The kids come mostly after school. The 3 o'clock hour is the one that everybody wants, but we have lessons Monday through Saturday.
It's so inspiring, Sheila, to hear your story of just starting out like a regular old piano teacher and then growing to this amazing center that you've created. So can you tell us you kind of mentioned it, but what arts areas you offer there?
Yes. So our logo, and you can kind of find it on our website. Our logo has 4 little symbols in it, and the logo is kind of designed to look like an artsy version of this cityscape, or sort of like the skyline of Chicago. Or it's little buildings, and each building has an art discipline symbol in it. So the first one is music. The second one is visual art. And each one of these that I'm mentioning are the art disciplines that we focus on. The third one is theater and drama. The fourth one is creative writing. So we teach students how to write stories and poetry and spoken word. And then our fourth art discipline is the digital arts. So anything involving, we've had classes on art as code material or code as art material. I guess it could go either way. We have photography classes, music technology. Now that this new AI, space has sort of opened up, we want to have classes for kids to learn more about that. And then the last one is music and art therapy, and we're still developing that. We're still trying to get that one off the ground, but that's really close to my heart because of the need in many communities for healing from trauma, healing from, in some communities, gun violence, just economic difficulties in the home. And then so for some students, it's a loss of a family member, or it's just neurodivergent learning. So there's a lot of different reasons why music and art therapy would be really meaningful and needed for students.
So you're hoping to hire music therapists and art therapists to come in and use your center for those therapies. Is that what you're talking about?
Correct. And build a whole program for music and art therapy for our communities. Yes.
Wow, I just love what you're doing there in Chicago, Sheila. So it sounds like you have a variety of both private lessons and group offerings. Is that correct?
We do. Our private offerings have been the most successful. It's interesting, Rachel, and you may find this, that kids are pretty busy these days.
Yes, they are.
So many things going on. I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, I didn't have as many activities as the kids do these days. There's sports and, goodness, they involved in music and horseback riding and you name it. So our private lessons, I think it's easier for parents to just sort of schedule that in. But our group classes are going really well. We do group violin. We've done group art. We've done group creative writing. And then we also work in schools. So our teachers go to a lot of our local schools and provide music and art supplemental electives for the schools. So some of our schools we actually do that during the day, and some of them we do it through the school's after school program. So we work both at our location, and then we go out into the community and work within the communities as well. But yes, you're right. We do both private and group.
So when you're going out into the schools, are the schools hiring you, or is it the parents paying for that, or is it a combination?
It's a combination. Yep, it's a combination depending on the school. Sometimes the parents are paying for the after school programming and it comes from them. And then sometimes the school is paying, paying us directly. And sometimes the schools get grants that as well. So just it's a variety of different ways.
I got it. Are there specific challenges that come from including so many different arts areas in your center?
Yes.
I imagine. Can you share some of those with us?
Oh, yes, I can. Let me see. So, you know, I've actually had people say to me, maybe you should focus on one or two of these. Maybe it feels like it's a bit much. But I am so passionate about students having an opportunity to explore. For me, growing up, it was music, and sorry, we don't have time for anything else. And I remember wanting to be in a play. Like, I wanted so much to try acting, and I really wanted to try dance classes. And so I wanted a place where moms didn't feel like they had to run all over town to have their students try different things. And if they tried something and didn't work, like, here, try something else. So the challenge is keeping all the programs going at the same time, finding teachers for everything that we want to do sometimes, but I don't push myself to have everything going at the same time. We have seasons where, like, we had a season where we had a great digital arts program. And right now, it's on pause. We don't have as much going on in that area where you have a lot more music and visual art going on. But I don't back off from saying this is still who we are and this is the way we want to grow. I'm not going to eliminate that from completely from our curriculum or our programming, even though we may not have an offering in it at this moment. And so when families call and say, do you have classes in this? We'll just say, well, we don't at the moment, but could we take your information? And as soon as we bring that program back around, we'll give you a call, let you know the times and the dates. So
Yeah, and that probably gives you an idea of what the market is and what people are looking for and interested in.
it does. It really does. And then sometimes it's certain programs are easier to offer in a school environment where the students are already there. There's already a group of kids. So we can bring in a teacher to to put together a curriculum for a coding program, an artistic coding program. And then it's really successful because we don't have to market it and bring the kids in our door. The kids are there, they're interested, they want to learn. We just find the teacher, build the curriculum. And then that also helps us, if we want to offer that privately. Sometimes we've had, things that work really well at a school. And then we decide, hey, let's just offer this in a setting where students can take private lessons in this. So I love the flexibility of having a lot of different options because it allows us to kind of play around with what works, when it's working, how it's working. And I don't put a lot of pressure on myself to make sure everything's working at the same amount, like at the same level and everything's perfect and everything's successful all at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's important to know that, something might not work right now, but it might work in the future and everything doesn't have to be successful right away, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I have a question from my own curiosity standpoint. How do you know when something isn't working or if it's just not working right now and it just needs a little more time to grow? I've always struggled with that.
Um, I would say feedback, you know, talking to parents and kids. Well, kids are always real honest.
Oh, yeah, they are.
they'll tell you if they like something or if they don't. And you can always say, well, what did you like about it or what didn't you like about it? Yeah, I think it's like, for instance, I'll take our art as code program that we did. It actually worked. We did it in a school setting. It worked really well. The teacher that we hired put together an incredible program, and I was super proud of it. We After that was over, I think we did it for about 6 weeks. After that was over, we didn't necessarily have the space at our facility to do something similar. And we didn't have the opportunity to turn around and do it again right away at that school. But because I could tell it went so well at that school, I knew that was something we would do again. So I think it's just, and we got feedback from the students that they really enjoyed it. And I got feedback from the teacher that the kids were really lighting up and they were asking a lot of questions. So I think it's just getting feedback from parents and kids and, kind of gauging the energy that you're getting back from what's happening. If it just feels like, yeah, nobody looks happy, like everyone looks kind of miserable. I will also say, like, we've done some group classes and not been able, like, in our space at our location, and not been able to get the traction or get enough students at the time. And so, for instance, like our group violin class, like I know that group violin is important and in many cases very successful. So I sort of say, well, if we don't have a bunch of students signed up for this right now, let's just table it and we'll offer it again at a later time, or maybe we'll switch up our marketing around it and see, how are we marketing it. Let's maybe get a wait list. And then once we get enough students, then we start. So I just sort of look at our strategies, but I sort of gauge it by both feedback and then my own gut feeling of like, how important do I feel like this particular offering is? And something like group violin or something like, a community art class. I'm like, no, this is important. So if it's not working, we need to look at why it's not working and figure it out and offer it again. I don't know. I do a lot of things kind of by gut feeling too, like just my own, I don't know, my own urgency of how much now I'll say this too, Rachel. I'll slide this in there and then we can get on to the next question. There have been times when I was really passionate about something and really wanted to do it and it just wasn't working. And I've had like my staff go, Sheila, we're not doing this right now. And I'm like, okay, you're right. But
I've had that experience too, where
but it just wasn't working. So
yeah, you realize it's your own passion and the team just isn't catching the vision, right?
yep. So sometimes you have to listen to your team. Yeah.
Yes, that's true. You mentioned that you're set up as a nonprofit. Can you tell us about the benefits and perhaps the challenges too of being set up as a nonprofit and how that allows you to serve the population that you serve there?
That's still something I am learning about. I think I jumped into the nonprofit world not knowing a lot about it. I originally had my personal studio set up as an LLC, and it was going fine. I had mentors who had been in the nonprofit world give me some advice that what I was doing may present opportunities for grants and funding that could come from corporations and foundations and state grants and city grants and state grants. So I would say motivation or encouragement. Like I felt like, that might be super beneficial. You think about the arts. It's an industry where there's a lot of grant funding available for the arts. However, if the question of why I did it as a nonprofit, I feel like I was sort of like shoved into it. And then I looked back after it was done and said, oh my gosh, why did I do this? Because finding funding for your own job is really challenging. It's really challenging, Rachel. I will say this though, that nonprofits are still businesses. It's still a business. It's just a different tax status. And you still have to make a profit. It's just that everything you're doing is not for the purpose of profit. And it's also regarding like who the profit goes to, right? Like a nonprofit is not owned by one person. I cannot be the owner of it. And it's also run by a board of directors. So I don't get to make all the final decisions. So that's good in a sense that I have that support. It's also challenging in a sense that I have a lot of people I'm accountable to. And, there's oftentimes a lot of opinions that I filter through before we can move to the next iteration or decision. So that's a very challenging question. I don't know if that I have a really great answer for it because I feel like I'm still sometimes playing catch up in terms of like what is nonprofit management, and there I feel like there's still a lot that I want to learn around it. But it's nonprofit is its own thing. It's its own world, and you either love it or you grit your teeth and you know try
Well,
to get.
I appreciate your honesty, Sheila, because I think there is this, maybe rose-colored glasses where people think, oh, nonprofit, I can get all these grants, all these benefits, and maybe they don't do as much research as they should at the beginning. So I think your honesty is really helpful to share some of the challenges, and as well as it sounds like there are some benefits and you have a good support team around you.
Yeah, I mean, there's more. I don't know. I don't want to scare anyone, but I feel like there's more challenges than benefits.
Okay, good to know.
Especially if you're just sort of starting off and haven't really done your research. Like, please do your research. We got a law firm to help us with all of the initial paperwork, in filing for our 501(c)(3) status. That's a monster, getting all of that paperwork filed and making sure that you do it the right way. You have donors, getting involved with finding the right donors and engaging with them and building relationships with them, and reporting back to them and giving them, how letting them know how things are going. And then the whole granting process, like we having someone who's dedicated on your team to helping you find and write the grants. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And then understanding how to read your budget and report your budget back to the board and explain, and the bigger you get, the more challenging it gets. So please do your research before you make a decision with nonprofit.
Bottom line right there.
Bottom line, yes.
So can you tell us how being a nonprofit helps you serve the kids in Chicago who might not be able to afford arts classes and lessons?
Yes. So that was one of the priorities for me in building our organization, was to make sure that we had funding. We had scholarship funding for students who couldn't afford lessons. I mean, it's, you know, I believe that every human being is born with creativity. But if you don't have an opportunity to ever explore that, or if you're never given an opportunity to discover what you're good at, imagine, Rachel, if you'd never taken a piano lesson or never had an opportunity. Like, you're like, your mind, you are so talented, it's mind blowing. I remember in school being very jealous of how well you could just sit down and accompany people. And then all of our professors were saying, Rachel went and got this degree and that degree. And I was like,
Oh, you're sweet, Sheila.
But imagine if those opportunities had not come to you, you'd never know that all of that is inside of you. And so my heart just sort of went out to kids who, like, they're just as gifted as you and I are. And yet if they're not given an opportunity, they won't know. So it was important to me that that the nonprofit status really benefit kids so that we could have a scholarship fund specifically, for those students to apply. So we have a financial aid form on our website. We have a formula and a way we go about determining how much scholarship and who receives it, and then we report that back depending on where the scholarship funding comes from. We report that back to the donor or the sponsor or the grantor. So, but I do believe that being a 501(c)(3) allows us to request funding specifically for our students who have that need. And we've seen I have so many amazing stories of kids who received the grants received the scholarships and just blossomed.
That's amazing, Sheila. I just love what you're doing there. I do want to transition a little and talk about summers at Fame Center. because so many of our teachers are thinking about summer. This episode will air in March, but so it's not too early to think about summer and all the different possibilities that come along with that. What do summers look like at the Fame Center?
Yeah. So every summer we have a summer camp. We also have a spring break camp, which is coming up even before summer. But we have summer camp. It's usually somewhere between 4 and 6 weeks. We've varied from year to year. This year we're doing 4 weeks of our regular summer camp, and then we're doing a week of theater camp, which is going to be a half-day camp for like our middle school and high schoolers. Our camps are all day, 9 to 4. We do before and after care for parents who need to drop off their kids. Each week usually has a different theme. And I have an amazing, we're small but mighty team of administrative staff that help me come up with themes. And so the kids every day will explore something new. So they have, a day where they're doing art. They have a day where they're doing music. They have a day where they're doing theater. So we try to explore all of the art forms. They do their own, writing of stories. So we try to incorporate all of the art disciplines that we represent. And yeah, they usually come away with projects that they've completed, and it's cute to see the friendships that are made. And last year they made this beautiful mosaic guitar. So they took an actual guitar that was kind of, older, and then they put all the little mosaic stones all over it, made a beautiful design. It's now sitting in display at our center. So it's fun. They do their own projects, they do group projects, and they learn a lot.
I bet. That's really cool. So, do you offer private lessons as well during the summer, or do the summer camps replace your groups and private lessons?
Great question. We do offer private lessons. It's usually a little lighter. A lot of parents take the summer off, but we do still have our private lessons. We just kind of have to move things around a little bit. But yeah, we still have private lessons. It's busy. It's busy.
And so, those 4 weeks, is each week different, or are you doing the same camp 4 times?
No, each week is a little different because we have kids who come, for the entire summer, and we don't want them to get bored.
Yeah.
So each week is a little different. We actually have on our website our summer camp page, and it gives like the information about the theme for each week. I'm actually pulling it up because it's hard for me to always remember all the details of what we do. But yeah, I mean, like some weeks it'll be a theme about nature, and so everything that the kids do is around nature. And so I think last year we did like one week was about the sky, and so there's some. I think one week was about imagination. And so everything, will center around whatever the theme is that week. And so whether it's an art project, music project, writing project, everything will center around whatever theme that we've picked. But yeah, each week is a little different.
And are your teachers creating a curriculum from scratch, or do you purchase summer camp curriculums?
No, they create it from scratch, which is kind of fun. I like to see our teachers be creative. We're always there to offer support or help, but we do really ask them to come up with, their own curriculum and what they want to work in. Now, you do have to turn it into us so that we can take a look at it and see what they're doing. And then, we give them some feedback if there's anything that, we want to tweak. But yeah, they come up with it all on their own.
Can you give us an idea of the size, like how many students are in the summer camp and how many staff members it takes to host one of those?
So we usually have between 20 and 30 kids per week. So it's not huge. I think our space can hold about 36 kids. So that's really the max that we can do right now per week. We will have one camp director, and then the teachers sort of come and go depending on like what the music teacher will come in for her 2 hours of music. Then the theater teacher comes in for her 2 hours of theater. So they rotate throughout the day when it's their class time. And then we have camp counselors who are there all day with the kids, just, go to the park and all that kind of, so they're with them all day. So I would say, gosh, camp staff, we probably have about 7, 5 to 7 camp staff. We try to keep the same camp staff for the whole summer. So
Gotcha.
rotating. So that's That's about what it takes for us
Okay.
now. We hope
Yeah.
to grow to be like 3 times that size, but yeah, that's where we are right
Okay. And can you talk about, are there additional costs to putting on summer camp, such as snacks and crafts and all of that? And how does that factor into your budgeting and maybe what you charge?
Yes, 100%. We do. So we do ask the kids to bring their own lunch, but some of the kids sometimes they don't have it, or they'll show up and they forgot it. so so we try to have Lunchables and things like that. So there is a cost to, and then we do provide their snack. We ask them to bring their own snack too, but we always have extra on hand, and somehow they know that, and because our snacks, maybe they think our snack is better. So we do. We have, and we do factor that into what we charge. But yes, there are extra costs for all of those things. We have to make sure we have all of our first aid kits stocked and plenty of band-aids and all the things. But we do factor that in. But we also have to factor that into a lot of kids are on scholarship. So when we're requesting scholarship from our funders, we factor that into the needs that we'll have for making sure that students who can't afford camp can, will have all the funding they need to be able to attend.
So, can you give any advice to teachers who maybe are running a private studio and want to do something a little different in the summer, whether it's a camp or something like that, whether it's a 1 day thing or a week-long thing? What advice would you give those teachers based on what you've learned there in Chicago?
Plan, but be flexible. Make your plan. Don't be married to it.
That's good
If
advice.
I think if I am, I'm one of those people who I'm a little bit of both. So I like to do things on the fly. But if I have a plan, I tend to get bent out of shape if we get too far off the plan. And so I've really had to learn to balance both ends of that. I've had to learn to be more disciplined with a plan, but I've also had to learn to be a little bit more flexible when the plan falls apart. So I would say just put a plan together, and have fun with it. Put together an hour by hour plan if you want to do a 1 week summer camp, if you want to do a half day summer camp for kids, a music camp, put together some fun activities. There's so many resources online. There's so much even on YouTube. We're in an age where there's just, if you look for it, you can find it. Find things on Pinterest, get volunteers if you can. If you can find high school or college students. There are so many kids now that need service hours for different things. Find some volunteers, especially if, volunteers from your church or the local community college. But I would just say, and then start small. If you've never done it before, don't stretch yourself. Start with 5 kids. If you've never done it before, start with 10 kids. Don't overstretch, because you will get frustrated, and then you'll say, I don't ever want to do this again. And it might be a really great plan. So just start small and then try to get feedback at the end. Put a little survey together on Google Forms and email it out to the parents and ask them, what did your kid love about it? What would you like to see different? Because if you don't ask, you won't know. And a lot of times you'll get really great feedback or even great encouragement. Like, it was great, my kid loved it. And you would never know that if you didn't ask specific questions. So put together a little survey and try to get feedback. And then just be gracious with yourself. Some days are going to be hard. Some days the kids are going to go, I don't want to do that, and don't get your feelings hurt, uh, and don't give up. Don't give up, just, if it doesn't work this summer, tweak it and try again next summer, because it's a good source of income. I think parents are always looking for stuff for kids to do in the summer. One thing that we did that actually has been working is we allow drop-in. So we'll do 1 week camps, but if they want to come for the day, we allow that as well. So that's helpful, because when you're married to, like, no, you have to pay for the whole week. That's people, they have stuff going on and they can't come the whole week, and then so just try to be as flexible as you can and learn from your mistakes and be very gracious with yourself. It's not going to be
That's
perfect.
very good advice, Sheila. Thank you. You mentioned your spring break camp. Do you do other special events throughout the year?
Yeah, so actually, this goes back to a question you asked me earlier. We were doing day off camps. So, like when Chicago Public Schools had a day off, and you can see their whole calendar online, we could look it up. We would plan day off camps, and we just didn't have the success with that we thought we would. I had seen other organizations doing it, and it seemed like they were just booked with kids. And so I was like, we're going to do that too. um, so we just didn't have it. So to answer your question, yes, we do. That was one thing that we tried and didn't work. But we have, our kids. Well, we do our recitals. We just started trying out juries this year. We're going to do juries for the kids so they can get feedback. We do community events, free community events, so that parents and kids can come in together and listen to like a concert. We'll have local artists come in and perform, and we'll just serve cheese and crackers and juice, and it's nice to see all the parents coming together and bringing their kids for an evening of live music. We did like a sing along Christmas caroling cookie making thing, in the at Christmas. We used to have something called Fame Fridays, which was, another like, once a month on Friday. It was just like a community event that we would do. So arts, crafts, live music from community artists. This year we're trying theater camp. So we're always looking for new ideas and new things to try. I would also say a bit of advice, like look around and see what other people are doing, and don't feel like you're copying someone's idea. I think for your neighborhood or your students, you can always tweak it to be what you want, but it's so great to get ideas from other studios, other teaching artists. And if somebody's doing something that's working, try it for yourself.
Yeah, and you're going to put your own spin on it. So it's going to be a little different. I want to go back to the business thing just real quickly. Do you have advice for private teachers who are maybe thinking about expanding to either hiring other teachers or perhaps transitioning into a commercial space?
Ooh, these are such good questions.
Thanks.
Yes. No, let's see, advice. Do it. Hire teachers to help you. If you are starting to feel like your studio is growing and you're starting to feel even a little bit of burnout, hire some college kids. I think that's what I did. That was the first thing I did when I had my studio, is I began hiring some students from the college that I graduated from. And it worked great because they got to learn, they were learning. Several of them actually have their own studios now. When you hire younger college kids, the younger kids like relate to them really well. They're a little closer in age, so it's fun that way. Make sure you set your business structure up, so that you're paying them. You can find, payroll platforms. Don't be afraid of that. I would say sometimes it can feel a little intimidating, but I say go for it. It gives you opportunity to grow, because a lot of times then you've got a new teacher, you're making income, but then they're making income as well. And then kids in the neighborhood find out about, the teachers that you have in your studio. And it just allows you an opportunity to expand, allows your kids an opportunity to learn from someone else. In terms of going into a space, that can be challenging, but I think it's doable. Sometimes smaller private schools will offer opportunities for space after school. Like you can ask them if you could rent a classroom. Churches oftentimes are great places to see if there's space, during the week. A lot of times churches aren't always using all of their space. I first started renting from a small private school. They had, some classrooms that they weren't using, and they allowed me to use that. You can always bring a digital piano in. Hiring teachers, if you're interested, also may allow you an opportunity to offer a lesson in a different instrument. Like if you only teach piano, and you want to expand a bit, you could hire a violin teacher, or viola, or cello, and it allows you an opportunity to offer something that you yourself don't teach. Ask other teachers who are doing it, and I think sometimes LinkedIn is a good resource to use in terms of just trying to connect with other teachers. And of course, there's always MTNA and all of the other community organizations where you can connect with other teachers. But I think just having your own community of like-minded teaching artists and just getting advice from them But don't be afraid to explore that idea. I think that was one of the best things I ever did, was hiring teachers to help me. Uh, you do, college kids, you do have to kind of keep up with them because they want to have
Yes, there's some
and
mentoring involved, right?
yeah, there is. So be prepared for that. But yeah, go for it. Look for space. It's out there. If if you can find a great spot, I think it's a great thing to do to expand outside of teaching your home. Now, teaching outside of your home, you're going to pay rent somewhere. So, there's that. When you're utilizing your own home, you don't have to pay extra money for the space, but there's tax benefits too to having an office space. So
Before we close, Sheila, I was wondering if you could share a specific example of a student who has been impacted by what you're doing there at the Arts Center in Chicago.
absolutely. We have a young girl named Michaela. She started with us when she was in second grade, and we had an art class that she was involved in. This is when we were renting space in the school, and we had a little classroom, and I had a college student who came in and taught art, and she was doing such a great job. Michaela was having so much fun. And then, right then, the pandemic happened. We went to online classes, but Michaela's father passed away suddenly from COVID, and we found a way to allow Michaela to stay with her art teacher, take lessons online, and move to private lessons. Her mother, Michaela's still, this isn't it. She's now, I was 20, what, 19. So much older now. She designs her own t-shirts. She has her own business. She started taking violin lessons. Her mother has come to me and literally cried on my shoulder and said, I don't know what we do without Fame Center, because Michaela had a place to process what she was going through. And through art, she was able to, even when she wouldn't talk to me, this is her mom saying, even when she would talk to me, she would talk to her art teacher. And she was able to process her grief through art. And one other example, we had a young little boy who came to our camp, and he was pretty nonverbal. He just, cute little boy, but just didn't talk. And we had theater classes, and as he was, you know, having fun in theater and learning to be a character, all of a sudden this little boy starts talking, and all the teachers are kind of going, what happened? Like, what's going on? But I think he had an opportunity to talk outside of someone pulling something out of him or asking him to talk. He could be a character. He could have fun. He was having fun with other kids. I absolutely love seeing. I'm going to give you one more very short story. We had a little boy at our camp. Well, not so little. He was about 12 years old. And he thought he was cooler than the other kids. And he didn't really want to be involved in the class. And he kind of sat on the outside. Yeah, I don't want to do that. And by the end of the camp, we were like, well, what would you like to do? If you could learn any instrument, what would you like to learn? I want to play saxophone. Well, we didn't have a saxophone teacher, but I went out and found one. That young man was extremely talented. He, in his first recital, was playing advanced music on the saxophone, playing a duet with his teacher. He got a scholarship to another music school to be in part of an ensemble. The next time I saw him, his shoulders were straight. He was walking like with so much confidence and pride. He found something that he was good at. He found a community of other musicians. Like, now he had a tribe. This music community was now his tribe, and he could be part of it. That's what gets me up in the morning, is knowing that the arts transform the human spirit. And I love it. I absolutely love seeing it.
Thank you, Sheila. Those were such amazing stories to end with. I just love what you're doing there in Chicago. And if listeners want to learn more about your work and the Fame Center, is there a place they can go to connect with you and with Fame Center?
Our website is famecenter.org. And then we're on Instagram and Facebook. Facebook is just at Fame Center. Instagram is the.famecenter. And then they can email us, info@famecenter.org. And we'd be happy to chat with teachers who have questions. I'd be happy to chat with them and offer any advice I can. But yeah, please do connect with us and sign up for our newsletter.
Thank you, Sheila. I feel like we could go on and talk for hours about this, but we really appreciate you giving your time to be here to talk to us today. I think we all learned so much today.
Thanks, Rachel. I really appreciate you having me. It's been a lot of fun.
I hope you enjoyed this interview with Sheila. She is doing amazing work in Chicago, and I love how she isn't scared to try different things and then pivot if something isn't working. I hope that you were inspired today to think about what new things you might like to try in your studio in the coming months. One of the new things in the Top Music Pro membership this month is a special webinar on the topic of dyslexia for members only. I know that this is a topic that a lot of you are interested in. So if you're already a member, make sure you register for the webinar. And if you aren't a member, this would be the perfect time to join and get access to this special session that will take place on March 15th. That's the end of the show for this week. Next week on the podcast, I'll be sharing with you a few creative things you can do in the summer to increase your income going into the fall. I'm Rachel Ehring, and you've been listening to the Top Music Piano Podcast. I'll speak to you again soon.
How do you keep up to date with all the latest trends and research into music education? How do you connect with other teachers around the world and make sure your teaching stays fresh and relevant for students of all ages and stages both now and into the future? I created our Top Music Pro membership to be the one-stop shop for music teaching resources, training, support and community, and I'd love for you to come and join us inside. With over 40 comprehensive training courses, hundreds of teaching demonstrations and lesson plans, free monthly sheet music, discounts, and all the business and pedagogy support you could ever need, Top Music Pro is the community you've been looking for. If you're ready to level up your learning from the podcast and join thousands of other teachers in our global network, head over to topmusicpro.com today.